I'm still hosting Islands streams. I'm going to wait till that kicks off, till I'm certain that it is sorted. I'll go ahead and drop my tweet out though. Yeah, I think it usually gives like a little message to say that it's switched off the auto hosting. I don't see that coming up though. Let's see. I will mention that there's supposed to be a maintenance today, the usual time, and I think it's a short one, just 15-minute deal. I don't expect us to have any really long ones anymore, since they pushed the final big update. I guess it was last week, week before. Still not saying anything, so I don't know if it's actually switched to my stream or if it's still got his on there. Reminder that residential renovation is coming up in a couple of days. I think it's on the 12th. That it'll kick off and it'll last for about a week, the 19th or something like that. I think it's the Battle Chase stuff, which is like the Protostar shelves and doodads, and then like the taurine stonewall that people like, and I think some Osun stuff and whatnot. I don't know what all it covers, but I think that's some of the items you can expect. Hey Bones, good morning. Can you confirm if you're actually seeing my stream part? I would assume so since you said good morning, but I don't know. I didn't get the message that it says that uh, I've stopped hosting Islands stuff. I've been kind of looking for some MapleStory streamers to put up. I only have a couple of them, and it's mostly just the UGC stuff, but yeah, I don't want to assume that it's sorted itself out. Sometimes Twitch can be a little quirky in that regard. But hopefully it's working okay. Let's see, is there anything else I should mention? Again, okay, thank you, appreciate that. Again, we're winding down our WildStar streams. We're still streaming the housing tours every week, but these are our last few. I think this is, I think we have 8 more to go if I stick to the schedule and nothing amiss comes between now and then. So yeah, enjoy it while it lasts, guys. Hopefully, I saw a lot of posts of others that have been crash coursing on how to make videos of their own, which I am happy for because obviously I'm not going to make it to everybody's plots. I've been literally bombarded with messages and mails and stuff of people asking me to take a look at certain plots, either theirs or friends of theirs or guildmates or whatever. And while I'm adamantly trying to get to everybody's, I'm just not going to be able to do it. It's going to be virtually impossible to see everybody's. You know, putting those aside, I already had a list of my own that I had been compiling, recompiling since the original list kind of went bleh. But yeah, my apologies again to those that I will not get to, but I'm going to try my best. I do know for sure that next week we'll be on Jabbit, as I am looking to stream Aurora's Valentine plot that they've been working on for many months, I think. So yeah, it's some things to look forward to. I'm also going to be doing, I think, as our final hurrah or whatever, I'm just going to take kind of my own reminiscing tour of some of my places. so that I'm not really playing any kind of favoritism to any particular builder as the last stream. Um, there's some of my plots that I've actually taken full-fledged videos of in the past, but others I think it was mostly just you guys joining me as I was tinkering around on them, so I don't know if I've actually gotten a full plot tour of all of them, so this might be my last chance to do so. So that's probably how we're going to wrap things up at the end. But in the meantime, I'm going to try and continue to visit as many as I can. And as I said before, since we kind of started this whole adventure primarily on Jabbit because that was the server I started on, we're kind of ending up on Entity because we only just started visiting those that side of the pond at the first of the year, and so there's way more plots that are available for our perusal. So yeah, gonna try and reach as many of those as I can. Hey Aurora and Poi, good morning. I'm so glad to see you. I hope everything is okay, or at least better than it was. And hello to you too, TW. Thank you guys for joining. So here we are on, it's called the Tiamat. I have no idea if that's in reference to anything specific, but it is a plot by, I'm sure I'm going to mispronounce this, Astraeus Onera, or something like that. It's one of those. Um, you'll see why I picked this one in relation to the final plot that we'll be visiting today, if my scheduling goes as planned. But this one is a submarine. I think we saw one or two other submarine type builds. I think it was Marshall, or I'm not sure if I got the name right, that did a kind of a steampunk thing, and they had kind of the top of a sub in their build, and then they had it kind of connected to their bunker house. Now, as far as I can tell, there's no actual access to any interior here, so everything that we're visiting is technically on the exterior. But you can kind of see it's like we're in some kind of a facility that's going to hook us up to wherever, but you can see the sub is here. It's been submerged. Presumably this is like ice that it's kind of encased in or whatever. I think most of it is like pressure dividers and some of those reinforced barriers or walls. And again, you can't get really a good view from this particular vantage point. It's not like I can scan my camera around real good because the glass prevents the camera from zooming out like it normally would. But you can kind of see it's pretty long, and yeah, that's what it is. Now here they're using the clever kind of feature of one of the fab kits. I think it's called the low fab kit, low gravity. You're able to kind of make it. A lot of people like to use it as like faux elevator type of thing, or some kind of, I don't know, teleporter deal. But if I double jump, I'll get all the way to the top, and that brings us up to this little area, and we can see the top of the sub that has broken through the ice here. Now, again, most of the ice bits are, I think they were called frozen platforms or something. There's like a small one and a large one. The small one I think you could get directly from the housing vendor, and the larger one was a drop. And then some of those are terraformations and glaciers and stuff that were all nice and icy. The little platform here, I guess it's supposed to be like a floaty kind of thing. It's just curved walls and domes, pillars, and then of course the Cassian floors. This little cubicle here that actually leads down to that entrance area that we were at, again, is those reinforced walls. I don't know what they're actually called. I just keep calling them, because there's several different versions. But if you kind of look for that, barriers or something, you should be able to find it in the shop. These here, that's the long portable holograph, I think. A lot of people like to use it for showers, refrigerator parts, decontamination units, that kind of stuff. Um, I don't think there's anything out in the general expanse of this ice and stuff other than the submarine itself. I'm going to see if I can get a better viewpoint of it. There you go. There's a. I don't know which end is supposed to be the front or the back. I think this is the front and that's the back since it's got like these little engine thingies sticking out of it. But you can see most of it is those reinforced walls and stuff. There are some Dominion scanners, it looks like. The walkway is pillars and those graded floor panels. But I don't think there's any like things to look at out here. I kind of ran over. I didn't notice anything. So hopefully I don't miss some kind of little hidden Easter egg, especially if it actually is connected to some kind of book or movie or something. Yeah, I think this is the other portable holograph, the round one that people like to use for engines and stuff. You can see that. Looks like a red moon vent and lots of those barrier things. Again, the barriers or these reinforced walls were always a big fave for military type builds. We saw them in like outposts for those that were building tanks and other kinds of military type vehicles and such. They often resorted to this because it looks all metallic and bulky and stuff. And then here you can see more of the pressure dividers. Now there is a little entrance here. We'll probably see that later using that faux, I think it's the Granock hatch. I say faux because it's not functional like an actual door would be. But notice they added the hinges, and those are just the Redmond vents capped on there. We'll come back to that later. Again, you can kind of see the interior of some of it, where these scanners are. Did you miss a lot? I honestly can't say for sure. Ever since I got really bad sick all those months ago, I've kind of dialed back my actual game time. I spend like a few hours in the morning doing that, and then because I'm spread out over several games, it limits. It's like 30 minutes here, an hour there, half an hour somewhere else, and so I haven't really been playing too much in WildStar. I know there's been some updates and stuff since I hadn't seen you around, but what exactly they covered, I don't know. I didn't really pay much attention to that. I think the biggest thing right now that everybody's been pressed on is the whole shutting down thing. While some people were expecting it to come, I think it came as a shock and surprise, at least for the timing and everything for a lot of folks. So most have been just kind of preoccupied with that. Now, I'm trying to think if there was anything significant. I really can't. I don't think there was any kind of like major new content that came through. It's been a lot of just, I hate to say it, but I think it was mostly just the cycle of the regular events and stuff that kept us busy. Of course, we've visited lots of homes since then, but those are on YouTube. You can always catch them later at your leisure. All of the ladders for the climbing up and down between the different levels of the sub and outside and everything, these are the detonator handles. It's like the little push thing that you like cause an explosion with. You're using those as a type of ladder. Oh, well, that's I've been streaming regularly, pretty much just once a week. I was doing it like almost every day of the week, and then I dialed that back down due to my health. But yeah, I do some regular hosting. I did hosting of some WildStar channels actually before, but their hours were pretty different than mine. So they never really were streaming at the time that I was ready to stream myself. But when someone else is streaming and I'm hosting them and I come on at the same time, then yeah, it ends up where you have to wait until my stream like takes over or something. But no, you haven't missed anything. We just kind of got started on this one, so you're good. Again, the little ladder here to get you up to the tippy top, so you can see kind of more of that construction. I assume this is like the bridge kind of thing. So yeah, you can actually access this area straight in from here. They're using mostly the graded shelf, I think is what it's called, in combination with the Chua pillars to make all of, like, I guess you call them the catwalks or whatever. And then the little bridge here, just some keyboards and the nautical wheel. Again, notice how they managed to do the thickness by laying in 3 of those per of the archways to make that window thicker. Again, a lot of the screens and stuff I think are from, like this one here, I think is from the Red Moon set, but then you have all the Marauder ones, the ones I used to use for like the very first aquarium I ever made was one of those. It's really clunky and hard to work with, but that was all we had at the time, and that's what I used. Yeah, you're good, Aurora. You're good. This here again, I think is those. I want to say this is either the shop sign or that long holograph thing again. I think it's the shop sign though, because the holograph would probably have all that little blue swirly stuff coming out. And then they tacked on the top with the keyboards to kind of cover that up. Now, I will warn you, I will probably get lost in this area because the interior of this is kind of like a little mini maze. So that leads you up. And notice how they put a slate of glass here to kind of help, because I think you might just pass straight through, or they're not like kind of sectioned out, so there's a bit of an incline. It's just straight up and down, so they had to put something here to make it so that you could jump up halfway and land. You hear something? That's Butter. She's calling for her partner in crime. So I guess we're on like what I would consider the upper level here, and we'll just go this way, I guess. This is where we could see from the outside in where the scanners are. I don't know what these are supposed to be, if they're some kind of engine thingies or what, but they line both ends, I think, of the ship. And then I guess this is like the main source of power, like the core or something. I really don't know what all's in here. It looks like some technophage tubes, those body analyzer scanner things, the tech arm. It looks like some vent tanks down below. Hey, Allison. Glad you could join. But yeah, I can't get anything more technical than that because I don't know the first thing about subs, so I don't know what's supposed to be what. Okay, so that's the way we come in. If we start zipping through here, this is where we came from. Go this way. This leads to, I guess, the mess hall. So you got the tables, no chairs. I guess they have to stand eating. But most of it's like medical tables for the countertops. Same tables they're using here, they're just using it for the countertops as well. And then insetting like metal-edged blocks for some of the cabinetry. And then of course the stove and sink things stand alone. And then this is access to the kitchen, you know, for role players that want to come and play like they're the chef. Then we have another section open, again, as seen from the top. Think about the planning of how to get this to work so that you could actually go inside the interior. Not as easy as it sounds. Okay, let's go up here first. I think this is where the faux hatch is. Yes. I told you we'd see that. It's the same hatch that we saw from outside. And then here is, I guess, the torpedo room. I guess the technophage pillars are being used as torpedoes. You can see some of the chains. I think those are the newer ones, the Osun version of the chain link dangly thing. I guess these are the torpedo chutes or tubes, and then they load it in and fire. Not so technical with the terms, but that's how I interpret it. Let's see. If you're wondering about these parts here, those are suitcases. I know it sounds weird to say that for those of you that aren't quite familiar with how housing works, but that's a suitcase there. Here are some military weapons crates. A lot of people like to use them for fridges and stuff. Now I have no idea what they're supposed to be here. It looks like some kind of vent. Maybe they're pretending that these are elevators that goes up and down to the different levels. I have no idea what that's supposed to represent. I think these are some kind of staircases from one of the landings, like the Dominion landing pad. So my guess is elevators, possibly, for those too lazy to walk the stairs. Let's see, let's go this way. Okay, so again, we went through this section. And this is where the mess hall and stuff is. This leads to the main, where the bridge and everything is. So now we're going to go back on this side. I think this leads back to the, yeah, to the engine room. Okay, so I think that's all of this level. And I think there's another level down below. So let me see if we can get us there. I think it's this way. And then down the tube. And that brings us to what appears to be the bunkers. So like this would be like maybe an officer's bunk because it's a little bit more plush. They've got a desk with 2x4s, staircase landings, the travel poster being used as kind of like a chalkboard, blackboard kind of thing, poster board. The bed is pillars, 2x4s, chua pillows, and the graded floor panels. Simple, straightforward, but a little bit more than just a medical cot kind of thing. And their little, poor little shelf there. again, the suitcases, but you can see the side, but they're also using, and it looks like storage of some kind. Another officer's bunk. But I thought this was a really clever way. I mean, we've seen a lot of ships and boats. I guess it's the same thing, but when I say boat, I'm thinking like a fishing boat, that kind of deal. For ships, I'm thinking like warships and stuff. We've seen a lot of those, and it's always fun to see a different take. Again, we've seen, I think, one or two other submarines, but the one wasn't as I can't get back up there. Wasn't as I don't think you could traverse the entire interior like this one. And it was more actually I think we could, because it was what's that, Captain Nemo or something? I don't remember what it was, Jules Verne or something. They had it really it looked less like the interior of a submarine than it did like the interior of like some kind of fancy suite or hotel or something. This looks more military. I could see this fitting in with a lot of the different, like I said, outposts or ports where there's like a carrier and stuff. This looks more military to me, and they stuck with that even throughout the interior as well. And I think there was one other, but I can't remember if it was where you could actually go inside it or not. But I do remember the Jules Verne one, because they had like just crazy interior stuff with like all of the wall bits and everything just looked very elegant and detailed and stuff. So, and there was like a lot of gear stuff, because again, I think it was part of a steampunk plot. I don't recall the name offhand. You'd have to look through all my videos to find it, unfortunately. So that's the first plot we're going to visit today. This was Astrius Onira's submarine, the Tiamat. But I like, you know, I know there's other plots that have a more in-depth landscaping and interior and everything. There wasn't a whole lot of custom building other than the ship itself, which I think is a major feat, because I certainly couldn't have put this together in this fashion and make it functional as far as being able to get inside it and move around comfortably. So this is no slight at the builder at all. That's one of the reasons why I want to show it, because while we do have those plots that are just full-blown, you know, landscaping galore, and there's lots of exploration to be done to find all the little nooks and crannies and hidden secrets and stuff, a plot like this is, I think it's more, I hate to say unique, but in a kind of a way it is, because there's fewer of these type of builds where it's focused on a particular thing like this submarine than there are of, you know, we've seen tons of bars and tons of tree houses and tons of gardens and things like that, and of course personal homes and everything set in a nice little country scene kind of deal. It's far rarer to see something like this. Yes, there are ships and stuff, spaceship builds and everything, but this particular thing, the submarine that you can actually go inside and tinker around in, is not that common, at least not from what I've seen. So I wanted to show it and you know, give another perspective of how one could approach housing in this way. Yeah, the Nautilus. Yeah, I think that's what, I don't know if that's what they called the plot. I think it was Jules Verne something, or maybe that was the name of the character, something along those lines. I honestly don't remember, but yeah, this what this kind of reminds me of, except theirs wasn't in ice. It was just at the port there in the town that they had made. Okay, so the next place we're going to see is called Rock Hard Sally. I think that's the name. Now I will warn you, yesterday when I was prepping for this, uh, I was having trouble getting from plot to plot. It kept kicking me out. Sometimes it kicked me out of the game entirely. And sometimes it would just port me back to like open world. I think I'm in Trimmer Ridge Valley or something, or Trimmer Valley Ridge, or I don't remember the name. So fair warning if that might happen this morning, because apparently after several visits to houses, it decides you've been here too long and you got to go back. So this was called Japanland by, like I said, Rock Hard Sally. And I'm a sucker for Asian themed stuff, so I couldn't resist taking a look at this one. I've done a few Asian related things myself, so it's always fun to look at others' interpretations and the ideas that they use, like this with the curved walls, pairing them up to make that little curved, what do they call that? The Torii gate or something. I think these are wooden dividers. This is the same piece, but one has been pushed further down, so you don't see the whole deal, you just see the half. So it's made it turn into a wooden gate. Right off the bat, we have a little bit of a water feature, pond kind of thing. I think it's an upside down chalice just because of the shininess of it. And but it might not be. It could be the bottom of a different type of glass. I don't think it's layered glass just because of how it looks here, but you never can tell. There's a lot of different items that people use for water, and this one just happens to be one of them. Notice that they used the lily leaves and stuff. These all came from the Waterfall decor pack, along with those little flitter flies that you see buzzing around. I love these, however, the little lanterns. It's basically, I think it's called the edge piece of the, or actually maybe not. I think the edge has like a little pointy tip. But these are hover part pieces that they made the little cap with. The metal dividers, the ones folks love for Asian related themes because it looks like those rice paper walls. But they're also favorites for those that build cities because they look like they're lit up even though there actually isn't any light. And then a pillar. Simple, but totally cute, totally fits the theme. And it's used throughout. You'll see them elsewhere, like you can see one in the distance here, and there's others in the bamboo forest and everything. So they carry that out. And also the big building here resembles it sort of because of the roofing, how it's done, and the walls here as well. Looks like we got a visitor just running around. Most of the stones, I think, are just the gray regular stones, and then interspersed in that is the swirly stones, creating the walkways between the different sections of the plot. Let's go this way first, I think. So this first little deal, I think is meant to be a rock garden where you would like rake the sand or whatever. Again, they had that little lantern thing to tie it all in. But they kept it simple. The one I did, I actually tried to make the lines of the sand and made swirly patterns. It was a headache and a half. I don't recommend it. So I think this approach was far better and more economical because it's fewer pieces, obviously. But I spent a long time on that and I was unwilling to let it go. So I just stuck with it. But I would advise not ever to try that. It's just a pain. Over here we have a little bit of a garden kind of thing. Again, the lantern, tying it in. I think most of the walls here are the granite walls, just used to make the stairs, and the walls here for the different tiered areas. And then on the side, it's the same wall, but you can actually see the bottom lip thingy or whatever, the trim. The rest of the trim is down below, so that you can't see that. Really nicely done. And of course, to get the elevated grounds, they used the upside down snowy hills, and then just used various vegetations for their little garden patches. Notice they added the grapes onto the gourd trellises here, just for a little extra. And then in the middle of the garden is, of course, a little, I guess, where you would come for like some tea or something or other, just a outside meeting place. Again, hover part pieces for the roof, slightly different than the other one that we saw. It's not rounded up, it's got a square block thing. Again, I don't know the names of those individual pieces. There was like 90 hover part pieces, so I gave up trying to figure out which ones were which. There were just some that were more favorite to me to use than others, and I never did learn their names. I just used them more regularly, that was all. I think either cylinders or domes for this part. And then of course this is the tree table that's just been sunk down, so it looks like a kind of a carpet rug kind of deal instead of an actual table, because it had such a lovely pattern on the top. Go this way. Again, I think these are dividers, the wooden ones and then the metal ones, hover part pieces for the roof. Don't forget this, it's all just pillars. Just 4 pillars nicely arranged for that. I think it's called a torii or something. I don't remember what. We looked it up once and I don't recall. Over here is presumably where they would come and eat. Different kinds of styles of dining here. You've got those that are kind of more squatted on the floor with their little mini tables. These are just the exotic decor tables pushed down. I like how they've got the raised area here. Those are decking pieces along with the floors to give that little elevated. They could have easily just kept it all on one level, and I probably would have. I very rarely think cleverly like this, and as far as lifting it up just to give it a little different look. But then down here they have the actual seats with the backs. It's just the staircase landing, 2 pillows, and then down below I think it's just the bars, the regular bars that you've turned into the benches. But come out here, again, they were repeating those gates blended in. Now this is actually a fab kit. I forget what it's called. It's maybe the Rock Garden fab kit. I'm not sure. This one in particular, I don't think they added too much to. Possibly some of the flowers, but for sure the little lantern here, that's their add-in. But I think the rest is mostly come as is. But I want to note that because the other one, which I think is called the Meditation Fab Kit, and right now we're in the bamboo forest. So you can see here we've got, I'm not sure what this is meant to be specifically. I think it's where they would come and meditate as well. But this one they made themselves. So you can see they've got all kinds of stones and stuff. I want to say it's like the tops of the Draken fencing. There's a lot of like mismatched stones on the very edge of it. I think that's what this is, in combination with possibly other stones from other things. But and then I think 2x4s for the trim. Excuse me. And then I have no idea if this is meant to be like a strange graveyard or just some of those, like, you know, the terracotta statues kind of thing. I have no idea. It looks nifty and fitting, but I don't know the actual purpose of it. Of course, this little pathway in the bamboo forest is boardwalk. It's the ones with all the bracketry underneath that made it awkward to use for like buildings and stuff. I found that out the hard way. Again, another one of those lovely little lanterns. And notice how they're using the granite fencing nicely. You don't use that one used too much, and this is a good example of that one being brought in. So here's the other one. I think this is the meditation fab kit, although it looks more like a rock garden too. But I think a lot of these stones are add-ins. I don't think that came this way. Correct me if I'm wrong though, but like I'm pretty sure they added the walls, the little gate here. And notice how the other one that they actually built themselves, they mimicked how this one is put together with the stones and the trim around the edges. Again, to help tie it all in together, to make it look like it was meant to go together. Now this one, you can see my character doesn't want to actually walk along it. I have to kind of hop to get her to go. But it's 2x4s. And then more 2x4s for the railings. Very stark little bridge there. Not quite walkable as one would hope. You can see they've added some turned ones to make it more where you could hop onto it and stay on it. I'm sure that has to do mostly with how they positioned this part here so close to this. Maybe they just couldn't, the way they designed it, they felt better. They wanted an arched bridge, but maybe they couldn't figure out how to make it a softer one so that the character could actually walk up it comfortably. But I like how they thought about that and added in these turn slats to make it a little bit more easier for your character. Continue on the boardwalk path here out to this side. And this, I presume, is like maybe a bonsai farm or something. I'm really not sure. The bits that they're using as the dirt looks to be the sandbags. Over here we have a bit of a training dojo kind of thing. Lots and lots of floor tiles for that. And yes, it does kind of look open and somewhat simplistic, but I think that's the idea. At least for me, I always thought of it, an Asian theme being more, you know, they don't, you wouldn't want to use things frivolously. There's a purpose for everything. I think these are mostly just cylinder type deals for these raised elevations here. And then of course the stairs match the ones that they've used elsewhere. Again, it ties in. If you keep repeating certain materials or patterns, it helps tie in everything. It's not necessarily a must, but it helps. Like the roofs here, the same, being used for this back gate as the other gate. And then having all of these little things repeatedly laid out in different areas. It helps. Now, I could get that potion and take a little closer look to the outside, but most of this here is just the exotic decor dividers. But probably the showcase thing here is the dragon in the center here. I get a good look at him. Was it Mushu from that Disney show or whatever? I think most of him is a combination of cylinders, tubes, domes. They've got little tufts of grass here and there for little decoration on his, like the joints of his arms and legs, and then of course the bushes for the bits behind his ears or at his ears, and then of course the tail. Triangle pieces for his little spikes along his spine. Let's see if we can get a good look at his face here. I'm gonna try and jump up on the ball. It's hard to stay on the arm. There we go. So for his whiskers, it's just a hanging cable that's been linked through. More cylinders and tubes for the nose. Wheatgrass for his whiskers. And lots of domes for his facial features there. The eyes are the blue files or tall files, I guess, with the domes making the lids. So he looks a little, I don't know, happy, sleepy, one of those. And then, of course, again, the triangle pieces for his teeth. Lots of curved walls to shape that mouth of his, and a dome for his chin, that kind of stuff. The horns, I'm honestly not sure. I think it's the horns of one of the animal busts. I think that's what this is too. I don't remember what it's called, but I think that's what it's from. Perfect fit though. They got it nicely squeezed in there. But how adorable is that? It's just crazy, crazy good. Little Mushu dragon. Or luck dragon, or however you want to call it. This here is again one of those exotic decor tables, I believe. For all the little displays here, those are the portable holographs. This one again is another exotic table, but it comes with the vase on top, and they've just pushed it down so you don't see the legs of the table. Chua pillars, that part. Yeah, he's like posed with the ball and like, here, come play catch with me. The faux door here is just one of those Draken cabinets. So let me see, I'm gonna skedaddle to the front because I think we've seen everything. As far as I could tell, there was no access to any interior that I could find. I'm gonna hate myself if I missed it, but I don't think there was. I'm gonna take a quick look through here, because if we go by the map, it should be like right around in here, and I'm pretty sure that's underneath all of this stuff here. So I don't think there's access. Yeah, it should be like right around in here somewhere. But as you can see, they've got that completely blocked off because of the dome or cylinder that they're using for the base of this property. But I do want to see if I can get a higher look up on some of this. So let me zip to the front. And we'll chug down that weird drink at the front. I'm probably going to regret it because I don't like it when I'm just trying to jump down some stairs and it goes wackadoodle on me, but look at that, I beamed myself with the lantern. Gosh. Oh, Oh, face first into the thing. So sad. Here's a bit of a better look. Come on, land already. She's just continually floating there. Here's the tippy top, and they've got like, it looks like a drake and spear for the little topper there. Little bird's eye view of the property. Oh, just kind of made it. There's the gardens, bamboo forest, and then the building itself. Pretty grand. Again, I really love these themes. One of my favorite. Yeah, it's one of, I looked for it. It slowly wears off, I think. I just don't know how long it lasts. Because while we were on the stream last week, I had it, and eventually it stopped floating around. Again, I thought I was kind of perturbed when they announced that they were going to be giving us this right at the end, because I know a lot of builders were asking for like a free camera kind of thing where you could just zip around and hopefully make it easier to build things. And I thought that's what this was when they introduced or announced it, but it's definitely not what I expected. It's not like you can just freely go where you want, because it constantly is moving, so it's not very handy for if you were trying to build while you were up in the air. But it does kind of, I don't know, I guess for those that have kind of spacey stuff, or just want to get up someplace that they couldn't before, like I did with the roof. Generally speaking, I don't think I would have managed that just as usual. That's the only thing I can see useful for it. You know, maybe finding some good places to take screenshots and stuff. Last 1 hour? Wow. Well, that's going to be poodly-hoo for me. Okay, so next one on our list is Austin Payne, Payne. Now this one, again, it's one of those, for some I guess they would think it's simplified, but I really love it. Probably because, again, I'm not very good at landscaping, so anytime I see someone do some really nice things with landscaping, I kind of go goo goo gaga over it. And this is a prime example of someone that has managed to blend things in so nicely it looks like it came that way. Even this entrance here, the way they've done the grasses and the stones and the shrooms and the moss and the what do you call it, mangrove tree or whatever. It's just, it just blends so well and makes me jealous because I was never able to do that effectively. I can't seem to jump from there for whatever reason. I'm trying to see if I can actually walk up these. They can't get my character to cooperate. Let's see how they've got this overgrowth just looped along. And it looks so real, like it came that way, and it didn't. And it's just mind-boggling to me how smoothly that's been done. Why it won't let me jump? There we go. I made it. I made it. So you get to this little platform here, little overlook. But look how adorbs that is. And they even put some little flowers and things in there, just makes it look so natural. And who knows how many pieces of that overgrowth they had to use to blend that in so nicely. but you get a nice little view of the plot itself. Now again, as far as I can remember, I didn't find an interior for this particular plot. I think they put all of their focus on the exterior, but what a lovely job they did, in my opinion anyway. So a lot of this landscaping we've seen in the past where us cheapies like myself have used the upside down snow hill. This one's using the Protostar Insta-Hills pretty fervently here. You see a bunch of them. Notice they kept the clutter off of the main part. Again, I told you that that was important for those that wanted it to be a seamless blend between those parts that are with the Protostar Insta-Hills and the parts that aren't. Because if they left the clutter on, you would see a distinct difference. The clutter stops right where it starts changing elevation. Some have found ways to kind of sort of blend it in with their own patches of grass and stuff, but we don't have any that exactly matches the clutter of any of the groundwork. So it was best, if you're wanting to really make it look blended in and natural, to leave it off and then put your own grasses in where you thought you needed them. This here is just swirly stones for this little dais or whatever they've made. I forget what, I think it's a taurine thing that has the flames. Now it could be something from the smoke or fire pack from the cash shop. I really can't remember, but I want to say it's an actual item that happens to have that green smoke. Kind of creepy, fitting for like Shades Eve, I guess, but I don't know the significance of it. But look at all the, just lots of detail in all the different bushes and trees, even the animals and flowers that they've decided to put in. A stone here, these little twigs. Just a lot of attention to little details here. You'll see that as we go through. Look, here we've got bushes, but then they've got the white weeping cups in there. That here, I think, is some of the barnacle weed plants that looks like seaweed. They've got that stuck in there. Some desert plants. Lots of bramble to kind of hide all the bits that they don't want seen. Again, lots of layering of the rocks and such. I hate jumping. Then I'm like floating for an hour. Jeez. Again, look at the layering of the rocks and the plants. You got different kinds of shrooms. I didn't even jump that time. This here, I think, is the top of the Thinker's Head. These are from Far Side, I think. And then look at these little arrangements of flowers. I see canary flowers, the weeping cups, the purple little, looks like little miniature trees, some Galeris flowers. They've managed to blend them all in, even though they're from different like biomes and stuff. Managed to blend them in and make them look like they belong. Again, lots of stones. This isn't just like one or two. There's several here that they've just layered in to make this strange little stone pattern. The little gazebo here is mostly hover part pieces, triangle pieces for a lot of the design of it. Some datascape windows for the little flower mark inside. And then, of course, some kind of Elden doohickamajo there. And then pillars chua pillars, and then a lot of the orange fencing for all this looks like winding flower vines and such. Just lots of those stuck together. I think some of the ones along the top are the fence posts of the orange version. This, I forget what this is called. It's some kind of Elden Dome thingy, and then they've got the little light up top that reminds me of the ones from Far Side. I think that's what's given the green glow to most of the interior here. How pretty is that, though? All green and glowy. Look here how they've got the overgrowth, and this is the mossy version to kind of touch that up a little bit. Like airborne forever here. The habanero blooms, that's from like the desert area, but they fit right in. Again, a lot of people felt like they had to stick with certain types of plants depending on the theme. Like if they had a desert plot, they had to stick with desert plants only. And it was always fun to see people drag in some other type of plant and make it look like it fit, even though it wasn't really what we call desert, you know. Another little bench seating area. Oh, for crying out loud. Now notice that they've inserted it looks like a Pell bench. Yeah, a Pell wood bench inside. That's because the exotic decor sofa or couch or whatever it was called, it didn't have any kind of collision or interactability. You couldn't actually use it as a couch. So you had to place something inside it, either so that people could emote sitting on it, or actually insert an interactable seat like the bench inside it to make it usable as it was supposed to be. They just never got around to fixing that, and but people found a way of getting around. It's kind of like with the water features. For a long time, we didn't have the really cool-looking waterfalls, or we didn't ever get like some standalone ponds or pools of water that we could use. And we found ways around that by using either fab kits that we built heavily over top of, or using items that represented water, like layered glass and that kind of stuff. Again, I know a lot of people fussed about that kind of stuff, but I found it showed or brought out the creativity of others in figuring out ways to bypass or get around or make do with what they had. I think that brought out more creativity than them providing us with every single item that we were looking for, like instruments and stuff. They never gave us, you know, guitars and pianos and things like that. And just the creativity of people coming out with those objects, making them out of a bric-a-brac of other things and making them look like the pianos and guitars and stuff. That was what fascinated me most, I think. Just overcoming those limitations and those challenges, and building some beautiful stuff. That to me was like the best thing of WildStar housing. Let's go here to the tree here. Again, lots of brambles, and then they dotted it with the weeping cups to make it look all flowery. I think this is the only actual fab kit. I don't recall what it is. I think it's some kind of a little instance that you can get to from your house. Elden facility, Elden laboratory, something along those lines. Test lab, there we go, test lab entrance. Obviously, we're not going to go in there because I'll get beat up and show just how poorly I can play my character, but it's there. Over here, we have the actual, I guess it did have an entrance to the underground, now that I'm thinking about it. It's here. There's some trees that they've got lined up against this datascape window. Some pretty flowers, different kinds. The canary flower is probably one of my favorite. Go in, and that brings you to a, I guess, a garden, botanical garden or something. Underwater garden, underground garden, something like that. These little nest things, I think it's just these bowls, and some of them are trimmed in the overgrowth to make them look viney, mossy, kind of. I think it's a combination of the mossy overgrowth and the regular overgrowth to make it look so green and lush. Again, just the touches here. You see the shrooms from the thinker heads, and then added other kinds of little plants. Lots of brambles and bushes. Excuse me. Oops. Trying to get a better camera view here. I like the little, well, crud, stair step here. For crying out loud. My camera just keeps backing out. This would have been lovely in an in-home garden kind of thing. Notice the ceiling is also covered with the overgrowth. And they're using a lot of, I think it's the like wilted or bare, leaves trees, and making it look like these are the treetops, the canopy or whatever. Some of the wall is covered with the datascape windows, and others, I think it's those green bulbous trees, and then the habanero, the infused habanero blooms. That's what's causing this funky animation. A lot of people like to use that for water, of all things, for waterfalls and stuff, especially on indoor gardens and things. That worked really well. Just, again, so much detail to all the different plants playing around in here. I mean, this is Space Suite, but then they've got it inside this jungly feel room, and they fit. They just, but it helps that they've covered up some of it with the grasses and stuff. Okay, if I can get back out here. If you're wondering about the doorway here, that's part of that, the Draken fencing, I think. Kind of hard to tell. Oops, fell. Okay, so I'm glad I was wrong about the entrance thing to the interior. I honestly couldn't. Again, I look at, like, I've seen so many homes over the years, I get them easily confused with one another. I'm constantly having to go back through my lists to make sure I haven't already streamed a house, because sometimes I'll get like a deja vu feeling and think, didn't I come here before? And so I'm always leery of committing to whether or not I can find an interior or not. Unfortunately, you can't go actually out to the outlook because of the barrier here, but I think this is, honestly, I'm not sure what this is. I'm not sure if that's that taurine steps there or not. But I love all the shrooms they squeezed in here. And the perfect part of this plot, though, is this little section here. I absolutely love this. I think Aurora will appreciate it as well, because she's done some things pretty close. Again, I think it's mostly gray stones. Same way with the bottom of this little pond here. The water is from the actual newer waterfalls, the ones that has the animation with the misty and sparkly stuff. You'll see that better over here where the waterfall is actually seen This is like the top or bottom part of it, and the rest is just sunk down in the ground. Notice how they've got the overgrowth interspersed along the edges. Stepping stones from Darkon Basin. Wow, she's really meowing. Notice the little lantern here? It's an actual cage light. I think it's one that kind of moves even. And they've topped it with, or put it on end to end, the bowls, the same ones they were using in the botanical gardens as the little carriers for the plants. Top and bottom. Simple, just putting two things on either end and it makes it into some other kind of little cute little lantern thing. Something so basic, easy to do. Anybody can do it. Look at all the greenery. Again, I think there's a combination of brambles and that mossy overgrowth to get this going on. I know it doesn't seem like a whole lot. You're just looking at this like but there's so many pieces here. It's just unreal. I wouldn't think to add half of that. But it's done so well that it just looks like it's meant to be there. Same way with this cave. Now, the waterfall itself, as I said before, it was really troublesome for those that already had their water features built and then later tried to integrate the newer waterfalls into those builds. They actually had to do some remodeling because where the water marks or where it pours over is different from the older ones. These are much more intricate or detailed as far as, how many splits they have. So people had to kind of rebuild the positions of the stones, and it took a lot of time. But for someone that had it straight up, look how well this is done. Where the splits are, the stones fit just right. It looks like it came that way. But it's actually multiple pieces being used to convey that those stones are there and the water is pouring off of it. And just looks so real and natural. It's just boggles my brain. Whoops, I closed it again, I think. This is that taurine stone door, I think, that you can get with the, oh, for crying out loud, with the residential renovation that's coming up in a couple of days. Again, lots of overgrowth. I see some canary plants. The teal plants that you can craft. Lots of the overgrowth is where you're getting a lot of the viney bits and everything. Those creepy crawler looks like that Little Shop of Horrors plant. These canisters here, those are Ichthyon tanks, I believe. Trying not to float everywhere because for some reason it keeps trying to elevate me. Some of this is soul frost tubing. This here, that's part of one of the pipes that you can get from the Palaver Point Daily, and then I think they added in some of the smoke that you can get from the smoke decor pack. Just a crazy little like cave garden kind of thing. Again, end cap, that's another one of the pipes that you get from the same daily. Chance at getting one of those. This, I suspect, this little like grating trellis kind of thing, I think that's the graded floor thing that you can get from Arctera. Like, I think you have to be friendly with the faction there. Some of the augmented spider webs again, like we saw earlier. I want to say this is probably a sparking wire with the spark probably up inside the ceiling there. that very rare occasion we see the exile stove or fireplace exposed. Usually everybody covers it up. It goes well in this particular place. There's enough blue that it blends in. I think this is a chimney piece. I think some of this is from Osun stuffs. Protostar lamps, more Ichthian doodads. Same way with these claw bits here. The Protostar platform scanner thingy, I'm not sure what that's called. Oh. A lot of different pipes, I think, from the Palaver Point Daily. And then I'm not sure, but I think these are just another one of the waterfalls being used for this animation. It doesn't quite look like the regular waterfalls because, again, you can see the different movements of the water. Looks like the regular the newer version of the waterfalls. This here, that honeycomb pattern, I think that comes from the graded floor panel again. So nice little underground kind of cavey garden thing. So cleverly blended in. Again, I just love how they've layered this in. All the different trim, all the different stones and trees and plants and bushes. It's just nuts. Even here, using the stepping stones as part of the pebbles for this little creek that's coming from this waterfall that feeds into the one down below. It's just so nicely done. I can't sing the praises enough. Because again, it's something that I would have loved to have been able to make myself, but I just don't have. For me, whenever I started planting trees and stuff, it started looking too uniform, like an orchard, instead of, you know, just haphazard and natural looking. It just looked too uniform or whatever. I just didn't have that knack for laying in grasses and trees and stuff in a way that looked like it just came that way. Even here, where they've made it look like an old ruins kind of thing, and they've topped it with all that overgrowth. And while it's very open, I'm sure the core count is really high because of all the detail they've put into the pieces that they've actually taken the time to detail out. I just absolutely adore this. All of it was just little bits here and there, and just you're like, oh, that looks good. I could use that somewhere. Or, wish I had thought of that. Or, but this part here is my favorite. Just the look of it is just so adorbs. Looks like an oasis, you know, kind of thing. And even with, again, with those space plants, just like, I mean, they glow and everything, but it doesn't look out of place at all. It's just awesome. Okay, so the final place we're going to visit is Crossplayer. And you'll see why I wanted to go to this one since we went to the very first one. This is called Heart of the Ocean, and you'll see why here shortly. Now, the entrance here is pretty straightforward. It just looks like a hollow dome with some curved walls, pillars for the little door frame here, and then, of course, the door itself. Now, I think the ground that they're using is actually one of the like Far Side or Moon ground covers, but it works perfectly for an underwater scene, which is what this is. Let's see if I can get up a little higher. So what I understand, this is ice above, and a ship has crashed uh, through it and landed into the bottom of this ocean or seaside or whatever you want to call it. And we've seen some other like sunken ships kind of thing, but typically they're not where you can get to the above and below. This one is built so that you can get to the top as well and be above ground. Um, and I think often people have trouble kind of representing the underwater feel for their visitors. Some will do like I've seen like some BioShock and some underwater like tubes where you can't actually go out in the water. You're just in a tube and you kind of like looking at it from the inside, the out. But this one actually puts you in it. Now there are a few others that I was hoping to go to, but they're incomplete, so I'm kind of hesitant to do that. But this one I think is a great example of how they kind of represented the underwater using items that have nothing absolutely to do with water. If you're looking at like the little wisp thingies that you see or the smoke, I think a lot of that is coming from those buoyant blue crystals, the ones that I said a lot of people like use for their own faux waterfalls. When we didn't have the actual waterfalls with the animation and the mist and the sprinklies or whatever. They're using that here, and that kind of gives the illusion that like there's bubbles and stuff coming out. There's also use of the shades eve plants, these poison spore trees and bushes that have these bubbles that come up. So it helps sell the idea that this is an underwater kind of thing. There's also the plushies that they're using. Now, if you want to use the actual NPC animals, a lot of people for water scenes, they prefer the steam gliders, which would, I guess, typically be like air animals, but they are favorites for like aquariums and underwater scenes because they look flowy like goldfish or something. But here they're using the plushies of the gar to make it look like they're on a little mission to come invade or pick clean the boat. Over here, you've got a little crab cave. Now the cave itself, I don't really make note of that because that's an actual item. But inside they're using all of the little glowy shrooms. And of course, I think it's an ichthyon table. It looks like a crab, so that's what they're using it for, is actually as if it's a giant crab that lives underwater. Again, they're making great use of the clutter for the groundwork. You know, before we talked about how the other plot owner turned it off specifically so it blended in the different hills and stuff. This one they left it on, and it really helps. Kind of, it looks like little squishy, I don't know, underwater plants. They've used some others for some of it. I mean, you can see the seaweed stuff from the barnacle weeds. Do take note, the bigger the barnacle weed does not mean it will be a little hill that you can climb on. They are without collision, so you just kind of sink right into it. If you want to avoid that, tack some stones or something underneath just so that you can't see it, but so that there's something solid that your character can kind of walk on. Yes, their feet will look like they're kind of stuck in mud or something, but it helps bypass the issue of it just being completely not there. It's just weird. Over here, they've got a little bit of a clump of, I think it's some trees or bushes or something from, I don't know if it's Arctera or what, but it looks like coral. I think that's what it's supposed to represent, coral. And then they're using some of the Arctera shroomy flowers as part of that as well. Now this one I'm pretty sure I didn't find an entrance. If there is, I will continue to look for it, but let's see, where would that be? If it would be somewhere around here. Oh, there it is. I didn't find this last time, so I'm not sure if there's actually anything in it. Nope, there's not. Disappointing, but I guess I couldn't think of anything to put in it. Again, that's one of the issues with some of our builders. Sometimes they're undecided. Sometimes they'll just build something completely unrelated to what's up above, and others try to think of things, you know, this could have been like the innards of the squishy thing, this frost spore or whatever it's called. Who knows? Something that they could have used that a lot of people like to use for their aquariums is those tentacle plants. That would have made a great school of jellyfish somewhere out here. In my opinion, that would have been fun. I know there's some like shell decor and stuff from some of the, I don't know if it's the summer decor pack or there's another one like underwater decor pack that comes with a lot of different shells and coral and plants that would fit out here. But again, this could very well have been built months and months and months before that ever became available. So yeah, the ship itself is, well, it's kind of hard to tell, but it looks like it's mostly curved walls and possibly a lot of hover park pieces. It's difficult to see from the lighting in here, but I think that's like some of the ramps from the hover park pieces being used as like, what do you call that, the keel or something? The bottom of the ship. I think it's decking railing for all of the, well, railing across here. For the little, I guess the engine smokestack thingy, that's a toxic barrel, and then a red moon vent. Notice for some of the seaweedy stuff, they've got the mossy overgrowth there. Notice they've broken the railing here where it slammed into the bottom. Graded floor panel. And then it's going to be tough trying to get through here. And it's, oh, I croaked. That's what happens with that silly potion. Oh gosh. All I did was step down the stairs. It's really dangerous, guys. Do not use the potion unless you're positive you're not going to be doing any kind of walking around, because that's just sad. It reminds me of when people would die just walking on like rocks and stuff. Just kind of croak. Anyway, here's the very bottom of the ship. You can see where the, I guess the luggage or something got waterlogged. And then I presume these here, this little character here is like the ghost of somebody that perished. Same way here. And then here is the part that hasn't actually submerged, which I found funny because they've got like people sitting at the dinner table, which is kind of weird. I presume this is, I don't know, the captain or something. That's just the stairs. It's really dark, so it's hard to see where I'm at in this thing. guess this is the bathroom. Yeah. The sink is just a bowl. The mirror is a tall file with a Hugel portrait. This is that oh, I forget what this called. It's not exotic. It's ornate chest, I think. I like the toilet. It's basically the taurine. I think it's a Ford or something. And they've got, I don't know what's covering the seat there. It's one of the Marauder bits. Turned it into a little toilet seat there. And this brings us to the tippy top outside, where you can see the rest of the ship. Yeah, I'm gonna miss the toilet stuff. Notice here, this is I think it's the lopstone oven upside down being used as part of the ship. And then these, I think, are exhaust fans or something. Again, toxic barrels or the smokestacks or whatever. Graded floor panels, red moon vent, a lot of hover part pieces for the shape of the boat, and then of course the railing. This little doohickey here, that's one of those red moon pillars. I don't know where that piece comes from exactly. But apparently the ship ran into this iceberg or whatever. The whole thing looks icy to me, so I don't know what it was doing out here anyway, but there you go. Maybe this is supposed to represent the top of the water and it's all rough, and then this is the iceberg that they hit. I have no idea. So I guess it's kind of like their version of Titanic. And I say that because if we come out here, you can see some of the debris from the ship, which I guess would be this rolling waters out here. Here's a poor dude that is just floating away. There's a barrel over here. Here's somebody on a floating piece of debris trying to survive. This one is, I guess, one of the lifeboats, and they're trying to shoot off a flare to get rescued, which I thought was a fun use of the fireworks decor. Of course, they look in trouble because it looks like it's sinking itself. But the reason I say it brings Titanic to mind is because of this little scene over here. Where the girl's on the thing and the guy's down below. So I guess that's their little Titanic scene kind of deal. I don't know if this is meant to be like a gar that's on its way to eat them, or what. And then of course more debris out here. So yeah, I guess this part is supposed to be the rolling waves of the water, and then that one, since it's kind of a whiter, brighter color, is meant to be the iceberg that they hit. And then you see the devastation of the broken ship and
I usually don't do private fan events,
all of that fun stuff. Yeah, I thought it was the clever approach to how one would treat it. Like I said, we've seen a lot of underwater type things, and this is probably one of the better ones with use of the buoyant blue crystals, making it seem all smoky and watery. I'm sure there's a lot of things people could have added into it. But there you go. I mean, I could see somebody putting in, using some of those tentacle bits, a giant, kraken or something coming after it, or making their own underwater fishies. I tried one. It was horribly expensive because there's so many pieces, but um, I'm sure folks could come up with some better ones. Yeah, it's an unusual theme. Again, it's one of those. It's there's not a whole lot going on. It's just a boat in the water, broken. But the idea, the concept of it, I love having those off the wall concepts. It's kind of like you see everybody do their own little like custom homes, and those are fabulous. There's a lot of great innovation as far as how they build their furniture, um, the construction of the house itself. But sometimes it's those quirky ones that you like the most, like the one that was like the Big Little House. It was like an oversized furniture to make you look like you were like one of the little borrowers or a little mouse or something. And they had the little mouse holes and cheese traps and stuff. But it was a ridiculously weird kind of theme, and it's those little quirky things that I think is interesting. Again, we see tons of disco bars and casinos and inns and taverns and things like that that fit into the actual overall uh, theme of the game. We have a lot of ones that build their own version of a Galeris area or a Theramore thing, not Theramore. Um, what's the one with the Granox and the I can't think of the name of it. Anyway, kind of like their section of that world. But I like the ones where they'll build like an amusement park or a daycare center, something off the wall that you normally wouldn't see, and they pull it off nicely. Those are the kind of things I like to kind of say, hey, it doesn't have to be the usual. Like we see a lot of Shades Eve themed plots around this time of year, and they're always dark and creepy, and there's almost always a graveyard or a church that's been taken over by witches or something. Um, but like the ones that include like some kind of weird fun house where the furniture is upside down in one room and then the walls slant funny in another, and make it pull it off, really nice. Those are the ones that's more interesting to me. Algarock, no, that's not the one I'm thinking of. It's like Tremor, Terror. Terror comes to mind, but I think that's World of Warcraft. I'm getting my games mixed up. That's what happens when you play 3 or 4 here and there and you're like kind of dabbling in everything. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed these houses today. Again, it's been a pleasure bringing these to you guys for your enjoyment and inspiration. Of course, I know a lot of folks have lost their will to even be in the game, knowing that it is shutting down next month. But I say enjoy it while you can. Take from it what you can. If you can find a way to figure out how to video record or at least take screenshots of things that you uh, find you most love about the game, even if it has nothing to do with housing. If you just like the scenery, go to all the different zones and enjoy what's there while you can, because while there has been talk of those that have been trying to set up their own like little private server things, I just don't see that being anything lasting. And maybe it's just me, but I don't want to like kick a dead horse kind of thing. I want to go out with a smile on my face and not be, regretful or anything for something that maybe I wish I had done or wish I had seen or whatever. So just enjoy the time you got, and uh, you know, let it end nicely and not bitter and too sad. I know it's going to be sad, but not too sad. Trimmer Ridge, maybe that's the one I'm thinking of. I knew it started with like T something. But anyway, I hope you guys had a fun time. Remember, join us next week. I think the plan is Aurora's um, Valentine plot will be ready then. So hopefully you can join for that. I'm really looking forward to it. I've seen a little bit of it a while back, but I haven't been back to check because I want to kind of leave it a surprise for myself. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how that has turned out. Um, and then from there on, it'll be back to just whatever houses I can collect from suggestions and my own perusing through what is available, and hopefully I can find you some nice ones. Again, we've got about, well, not counting this one, we've got about 7 streams to go. It's counting down, folks. So if you can, join. If you can't, the videos will be there on YouTube later. That said, you can peruse them. We've got literally hundreds and hundreds of videos that you can go through and reminisce, you know, when all is said and done and it's a few years from now and you're wishing that you could see it, you can. Just mute me and you don't have to listen to me, you know, gabbing all over the place. You can just enjoy the video itself and see some beautiful places. And in fact, even now, a lot of them don't exist anymore. The builders have moved on to other themes and stuff. So it was a great way that I got to share my passion with others and still be able to see some amazing work, amazing creativity. So yeah, I hope you guys have a great week, great weekend, and I will see you next time. Until then, have a good day. See you later. Bye-bye.